So here's a topic that seems to loom pretty large for the future of the game, but is currently sitting on the back burner while more important things take over the foreground. There's not a lot of information out there on drones, so this one will have to be more speculation than most of these shows. So leaning more wild than mild, you could say. I'll try not to drone on. All right, so drones. Outside of saying that some vehicles will have them, there isn't a lot of information out there, certainly not recent information over what they'll actually do in this game. Let's break this down by pointing out that CIG has made it clear that drones are a planned thing in this game, even if their implementation might be a little ways off. And yeah, I think their implementation could be a little ways off. For almost every single loop, it seems like there's mention of at least one ship that carries drones for it. Mostly these are kind of in-game ships, such as the Carrack Reclaimer and Orion, but not all. The Vulcan is roughly the size of a freelancer and will carry repair drones or refueling drones. And the Apollo, which we might even be seeing this year, and actually might be a dark horse candidate for being one of the first ships to have working drones in the game, is around the same size category. And that's a big maybe there. Let me throw that caveat on. I can't think of any ships that are smaller than a freelancer that can carry drones. Well, yet anyways, but certainly possible. I honestly think CIG might end up solving the one thing in this game they don't have an in-game explanation for, which is the third-person camera. A camera drone, which we've seen many times in various ads and in-universe shows, would be pretty obvious and would also have some obvious uses outside of just filming B-roll. Combat scout drone would make a ton of sense, but before I get too far into the speculation here, let me say what drones are and aren't. First, a drone is remote controlled by a person. So while it's an extension of a person, you won't be able to just grab one and say, go get me X, and have it do that. At least from everything we've heard, CR very much wants this to be a visceral, tactile game. So while drones are fine, droids are not. And I'll pop in here that the Sidnus is often called the Sidnus mining droid, which would suggest that it's autonomous. But it was also named that prior to all of the lore being sussed out. So there's a good chance it'll be remote controlled at best, or just piloted directly since it does have that cabin strapped up front. What I want to know is this: what the hell carries a Sidnus and when can I get one? Anyways, drones. So they'll be remote controlled from a drone control seat. So like a turret seat that can fly around and do other stuff. You'll sit in the chair and remotely enter the drone and control it to do whatever it is the drone is specialized to do. Going back to what I said earlier, we know there will be medical drones, mining drones, salvage drones, camera drones, and at least one type of camera drone, the one on the Nautilus that grabs mines. I'm kind of torn on whether CIG will add more combat drones. While they definitely exist in reality, I mean, a drone won't black out if it pulls too many Gs. CR very much wants this game to be physicalized, and this is particularly true of combat, obviously. So don't expect there to be a weaponized combat drone anytime soon. I wouldn't say never, but I'd be surprised if it's anytime in the near future. Maybe when the DLC drops and interest and numbers start to drop? I don't know. We do know there's the Nemo drone for the Nautilus. That'll collect mines. But beyond that one, they've been pretty quiet on combat drones, and probably for a very good reason. Outside of combat, it becomes a little easier to figure out what drones will do. And that's pretty much anything that will require a person to go EVA. And that's why you mostly find them on the big, expensive in-game ships. Going EVA is for peasants. For example, a medical drone can go grab a body or an escape pod in a dangerous setting, or maybe, just maybe, function as an enclosed tier 3 medbed that will stabilize someone until help can arrive. Like if there were too many bodies floating in space or spread across a battlefield. Now, CIG hasn't mentioned that, that's just what would make sense in my head. Salvage drones launched from a reclaimer, or whatever the large class salvage vessel ends up being, could go into a ship that's still on fire and shut things off, getting the Atmo back under control. Or maybe just grabbing components if the ship's internals are deemed to be a lost cause. Mining drones, outside of the Cydnus at least, if the Cydnus actually does wind up being a drone or drone adjacent, could be used to plant gadgets on rocks or grab rocks that are spinning away. They might even have a small mining laser of their own and be able to break up smaller rocks to be hoovered up by the mothership. Repair drones like those on the Vulcan and, one would guess, the Crucible can kind of do the opposite of the salvage drone and carry various components and weapons to where they need to go, or operate repair beams, because we all know it's all beams all the time in the verse. And beyond this, we know that there are drones on the Carrack that will actually be used to specifically to map out the internals of jump points, which is another reason why, if you go back and you watch my video where I'm discussing jump points and what the Carrack can do with them, that those little drones might be able to go through those side passages, and if it ends in a dead end, which at the speeds you're presumably going through in a jump point would literally be a dead end and kill the Carrack, if you lose a drone, you know not to go that way. So what else? Let's go camera drones. Well, we've seen these a few times. I talked about it earlier. It's not too hard to figure out how they'd be used. The most surprising thing about camera drones is the fact that CIG hasn't dropped them on us already. They'd be the easiest of the drones to implement, I'd think, just because all they are is a floating eyeball. They don't need any other controls, tools, or perks. I'd imagine there'll be construction drones, although they might just double up with repair drones, as I see those two loops being pretty hand in hand. Merchant and trading. Okay, maybe a smaller drone that can move boxes, maybe? Not sure on that one. In a game with tractor beams, it seems like just moving stuff would always be easier with a tractor beam. So who knows, maybe a drone with a tractor beam on it. I guess if the area was risky enough or there were environmental hazards or something, but then that kind of begs the question of who you'd be trading with in a place like that. Maybe Banu? Who knows? But those are my thoughts on drones. So let's hear yours. Think I skipped an obvious one? Think I skipped a loop that would definitely have drones? Let me hear about it down below. And special thanks to Andrew Coulthard Clark for the topic suggestion on this one. Catch me next time.